Hello and welcome to The Office Field Guide. Today we are looking at Season 2, Episode 16, entitled Valentine's Day. The setup for this one is that Michael needs to give a financial presentation at the Dunder Mifflin corporate offices in New York City. Meanwhile, the love lives of various characters are explored back at the office. This episode was written by Michael Schur and directed by Greg Daniels. It first aired February 9th, 2006, and it was viewed by almost 9 million people. So I don't know if I'm going to keep asking these trivia questions, but I'll ask this one for sure. How many gifts are given in this episode? I'll give you my answer near the end of this video. So with that, let's unbox this one.
No one asked you anything ever?
Okay, right off the top, I normally save my bloopers for the end of the episode, but I couldn't think of a better way to start this segment than showing this clip.
You're evil like a hobbit.
This is a blooper from a deleted scene, one in which was improvised by Rainn Wilson on the spot, and I just love him for that.
You are so little and petite, but to me you are extra, extra sweet.
My God.
All right, so the opening sequence of this episode, we get another Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration bit.
Happy Valentine's Day, darling. Love, Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
Isn't he sweet?
Yeah.
Such a good callback from a great joke in the Christmas party, and we'll see it again in the next season in the Lap and Vance wedding episode. This wasn't my original idea, so I won't take credit for this, but I do think it's worth pointing out for anyone who hasn't heard the theory. The reason that Bob Vance always tags his business while introducing himself is that he knows that the cameras are watching. As such, it's a way for him to get free publicity for his local business.
Stanley Hudson. Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
Ryan Howard.
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
What line of work you in, Bob?
And I think that theory makes a ton of sense. And also, to give you the warm fuzzies, the Dwight bobblehead has finally arrived.
I'm the bobblehead. Yes!
Dwight was so excited about this bobblehead, and so apparently was the public. Word on the street is that there was a demand from the Office-loving fans for NBC to sell this bobblehead on their website. Okay, and so for another series first, this is the first ever appearance of David Wallace in the series.
Stanford?
David.
And Michael Scott Scranton.
Nice to meet you. Ditto.
How are you, Jan?
He is, by far, one of the most patient characters on the show, and he's definitely on my short list of favorite supporting characters of The Office. An interesting thing I noted while watching this episode is that Jim and Pam do not speak to each other until the very end of the episode. Jim's leaving for the day, and it seems as though Pam is realizing that Jim isn't going to give her a Valentine's.
Like last year, Jim gave me this card with Dwight's head on it. It was horrifying and funny.
All right, Beasley. Hey, happy Valentine's Day.
Bye.
And moving over to Michael's trip, I'm pretty sure that he's wrong about this.
This is the world-famous Rockefeller Center, founded, of course, by Theodore Rockefeller. This is a skating rink, and I think the Rangers practice there sometimes.
But I really don't care enough to look it up. Surely someone in the comments will tell us.
And don't call me Shirley. Airplane.
And it is rare when Michael actually uses a reference correctly. It's good writing because I actually had to go back to make sure that she really used the word Shirley.
Surely you cannot be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. Airplane.
And speaking of the writing, the Conan and Tina Fey bit in this episode are great.
That's Tina Fey. That's Tina Fey from Saturday Night Live. I thought you were okay. I thought that was... Are you serious? He was here? When I was talking to the fake Tina Fey? Come on. No, she's...
As I've discussed in previous field guides, many of the cast and crew actually have an affiliation with both Conan O'Brien and Saturday Night Live. Okay, switching gears a little bit, Craig is a dirtbag.
Nobody needs to introduce this guy. Craigers.
What's up, buddy?
You have been kicked out of every strip club in Albany, is that true?
Guilty. Oh my God.
But if you notice, he perks up when Pam shows up on screen during the video.
Not bad at all.
He's kind of like if Todd Packer became a regional manager instead of Michael Scott. And I think that's the point of what they're doing there. They're showing that Michael is actually good at his job. And I really just want to look at two more main things in detail here, so stick with me. First, the Faces of Scranton video. This thing is epic. all the footage that was collected is depicting the staff of the Scranton office in the same clothing as the last several episodes, indicating that Michael's been preparing this video for a few weeks. Michael talks about the Scranton office like it's a promo ad for the state of Wyoming.
Next time you're in town, give us a call. Stop on by. I'm sure you'll be greeted by a big smile and a "how you doing, pal?"
What Michael says about Oscar and Phyllis makes me laugh every time.
What it's like to walk a mile in Oscar's shoes, or try on Phyllis's pants.
And his closing title card is just the best.
Great score!
Though this video is goofy and unnecessary, it is shown that Michael's prepared with the material that corporate requested. This is another sign that Michael does try to go above and beyond for his job, whereas Craig blew off multiple assignments completely.
Jan called me in September and she's like, "You gotta fire 4 people." And I was just like, "What?" You know?
Did you?
No, I just ignored her.
She's the worst. So, does that mean that you don't have the numbers on your branch?
That is correct.
And we have to talk about Michael's New York trip. According to the DVD commentary, they had to keep these clips short because people kept gathering around once they recognized Steve Carell. And so let's look at the details of Michael's trip. Michael starts his day by getting ready and then driving to the Scranton office, which we know opens up around 8 a.m. Michael discusses on camera with Dwight his plans for the day.
Patient on the branch to the new CFO.
And you want me to come with you?
No, the opposite of that.
Michael drives about 2 hours and 11 minutes to the heart of Manhattan, near Times Square, and he eats at his favorite pizza place at 701 West 47th Street, which is in Times Square, though this is no longer a Sbarro's, which also is not the big fancy Sbarro's that was in the heart of Times Square. That one was probably too crowded for them to get this shot. Then, walking down Times Square, making it as far down as West 45th Street for this clip.
Oy vey, schmear.
Then Michael, for some reason, makes his way up to 49th Street to get on a subway, which I'm not exactly sure why he was getting on a subway since he really didn't need to take a subway anywhere. But Michael decides to go a different route because somebody is pooping in a box.
It's a way to... Okay, here's a guy pooping in a cardboard box down there.
Michael then detours over to Rockefeller Center, which is a straight shoot down 49th Street.
That's Tina Fey. That's Tina Fey from Saturday Night Live. I thought you were okay. I thought that was... Are you serious? He was here? When I was talking to the fake Tina Fey? Come on. No, she's...
At this point, Michael starts wandering around aimlessly, asking people for help. He makes it to a river.
I think that's either the Hudson or the East, so we're back, should be back this way.
It's also either on his way to the river, on the way back from the river, that Michael runs into a down-on-his-luck Devin.
Hey! Hey!
You know what? It was nice to see Devin again, to sort of get closure on that whole thing.
And this river is the Hudson. I can tell this because of now questionable search history. Michael is around the Hudson on West 51st Street, which would be a 23-minute walk, one way. So at this point, Michael then walks another 23 minutes back to essentially what is right across the street from Rockefeller Center. As a Midwesterner, I am extremely fascinated with New York City. I share Michael's enthusiasm and energy when I'm in that city, but traversing Manhattan is so tiring. I'd be dying if I had to present to the CFO.
And this presentation is Desert Storm. And as soon as it's over, we will not have to deal with those Iraqis anymore. Let's do it.
Okay, so New York stuff aside, I asked at the beginning of this field guide how many gifts were given during this episode. This is somewhat of a subjective question, depending on what you consider a gift. So I'll give you really two answers. Specifically, traditional gifts, there are 9 gifts given during this episode. I'm not going to count Oscar's Valentine's as a gift because I don't consider that a gift. So what we have is Phyllis, first flowers, Phyllis another gift during Jim's talking head at 2:41, Dwight gets the bobblehead, Phyllis gets flowers number 2, Phyllis gets the giant bear, Phyllis gets flowers number 3, Phyllis gets chocolates along with flowers number 3, Oscar gets flowers, and Angela gets a key. If we include the non-tangible gifts, we get a little bit broader and a little bit more subjective. But we could include gifts such as
Jim gave me this card with Dwight's head on it.
And it might also be a stretch, but Michael saving the branch with the video and the sales figure could be considered a gift to the branch.
The best present would be you do a good job in front of the new CFO.
Also, we could include that Michael is going to bat for Jan.
Is a fantastic executive and has all the integrity in the world.
And when Jan kisses Michael, we could consider that a gift. And Roy's gift to Pam.
Well, Valentine's Day isn't over. Let's get you home, and you are gonna get the best sex of your life.
Which makes a grand total of 14 gifts. If I left anything out, leave it in the comments. I think the one that probably would have tripped up most people is the gift that Pam delivers during Jim's talking head, since it's happening in the background. But alright, with that, let's dig into the deeper meaning.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
This episode is really an example of The Office finding its groove. So much happens in this episode between the A-plot of Michael going to New York and the various subplots of Angela and Dwight, Jim and Kelly, Kelly and Ryan, Pam and Roy, and all the nuance in between. Like for instance, that Jim doesn't have a single line addressed to Pam until he's walking out for that day. It's nuance like that that tells a story in the absence of spoken lines. The Office becomes a masterclass demonstration at character growth and storytelling in a very tight primetime television mockumentary timeline. This episode times out at 21 minutes, and they use every second. But that's enough for gushing. The Valentine's Day episode is simply a look at the love life of everyone in the office, with a solid catch-up of where all these relationships are. But with the motif of gifts being given in this episode, I think the deeper meaning here is more about how someone feels loved. And stick with me here. In his book, Gary Chapman discusses that there are 5 love languages that every human being on this planet comprehend. And while I'm not exactly sure that it's concrete philosophy, it does paint a nice picture for how various people interpret love.
Sometimes the gift is really about the gesture, like what it means instead of what it is.
The languages discussed in the books are gifts, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. The philosophy of the book posits that some people may speak in a love language that the receiver is not hearing. Case in point,
and you are gonna get the best sex of your life.
Pam's nonverbals here indicate that she's not enthused about this gift at all. Michael, on the other hand, exhibit 2 love languages to Jan, acts of service.
I'll fix it, so I'll talk to him. I'll talk to David.
And also words of affirmation.
And Jan is a fantastic executive and has all the integrity in the world. And
based on Jan's reaction, she's hearing the love languages that Michael's speaking, and the Michael and Jan saga is back on. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to assume that the writers are exploring how our actions can make our significant others feel loved.
You mean like a ham?
No, not like a ham.
Good night, Pam. Night, Phyllis.
Or can leave them feeling empty.
What's wrong?
Nothing. It's just that I had to sit here all day while Phyllis got like an entire garden delivered to her.
And in order for our significant others to feel loved, we should be able to find out what their love languages are and then speak those love languages.
Care for it, feed it, lovingly, the way an animal deserves to be loved. And my animal deserves a lot of loving.
Or I don't know, maybe this whole episode exists for Pam to wear a different hairstyle for the first time in the series.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
When researching this episode, that just kept coming up. I mean, I get it. That's interesting and all, but I don't really get it. Anyway, let's move on to the Dundies.
Then I gotta get him to the Dundies.
All right, so the Dundie for the Best Relationship Counselor Award goes to Pam Beasley.
It's about doing something so that the person knows that you really care about her.
Okay, I get it. That's great. Okay, shut up. I know exactly what to do.
And the World's Best Boss Dundie goes to David Wallace.
That's fine. Let's just forget it.
Good.
I love the little details in this show. You gotta wonder if Michael brought him that mug. All right, let's rate this thing.
What gives you the right?
All right, the cold opening gets a 2 out of 5 for me. It's pretty blah. I don't really have much more to say about it. As for the episode itself, I'll give this one a 3 out of 5. I think it's pretty okay. It's a solid episode of The Office. So much is happening, and while I stand by what I said earlier at the beginning of the deeper meaning, I think it's possible that almost too much is happening in this episode. There's a lot of extremely short clips stitched together to make a story arc for this day, but everything is done very well, and it is a pretty funny episode, so 3 out of 5 is what it's getting. But with that, what do you think about the Valentine's Day episode? Anything you think I missed in this field guide that you want to call out? Leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and all that. Also share this with any Office aficionados. Next week, we're going to be looking at Dwight's speech, and we have a lot to unpack there. Looking forward to that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
So, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Seriously, you want to do something or with us? Have a convertible.
What are you doing?
What is this?